have to Google his add-ons. I don't know this killer's add-ons really easily. Yeah. What are those add-ons? I don't know. Fucking hell. Okay. So the first add-on is the extending overclock. So the overclock duration is increased by either 15 or 25. I don't know if this was before or after the changes, but overclock basically goes longer. And the other one is after a successful teleport from a biopod, particularly, the target survivor suffers from the oblivious status effect for 60 seconds. So yeah, I don't know. I think this gray add-on is really, really strong. I mean, having more overclock is pretty much just always good, right? But the gray add-on is kind of weird. It requires you to jump through so many hoops just to get an effect that isn't really that big of a deal, right? Like, you have to teleport to somebody, and then also you have to teleport them through a biopod. You can't even do it through your gun. It has to be through one of your biopods. So you got to do all of that to give them oblivious, which is also a weird effect to give to somebody that you're teleporting on top of, right? Like, if you're teleporting on top of somebody, you're probably just going to want to kill them. You're not going to want to, like, leave them alone. I mean, I guess maybe you could, like, hit and run them or something, but generally speaking, it's just a bit of an odd, like, I think you could maybe use it for, like, hit and run strats with, like, Nurse's Calling or something. I don't know, but it's just generally not that good of an add-on. Like, I think the gray one's great, green one's not so good. The build, I love. This is literally the build that I run on every M1 killer. This is an amazing build. I love this build. If you're ever playing an M1 killer, this is just a safe, fucking strong as shit build all the time, no matter what. Super good. Corrupt, probably the best perk in the game for killer. Sloppy, so good. Pain Res, probably the second best killer, maybe first. I don't know. It's one of the best perks on killer. Jolt, just really fucking good perks, man. So I love the perks. Not so crazy about one of the add-ons, but overall, good build, I'd say. I like the build a lot. All right, so RPD, looks like it's, I don't know what wing it is. Yeah, setting up these turrets can be a little finicky sometimes, so hey, it happens. I mean, that wasn't exactly the most smooth turret setup, but it's cool, man, it's cool. That one up there, yep, just setting them up at pallets. I respect it. Man, the volume of this is so finicky. Yep, that's cool. We're gonna set one up here. Probably, where? Maybe? Did that one even set? That one didn't set. He's still at 5. That one didn't set. He didn't realize. Well, already, first things first is make sure your biopod's set. You know what I mean? Like, he's at 5 right now and he tries to shoot this. Like, he doesn't realize that it goes right at the last second. And he shoots it and he thinks it's there, but it's not. So, like, that might not seem like a big deal, but that's actually kind of a huge deal. Because with, with this corrupt setup, it is extremely likely that the first gen that they're going to try to get done is the one in main. Like, it's either going to be the one in main or the one outside is usually the ones that people go to. And he has a biopod on the one outside, but this means he doesn't have one on main, which is not great. So that's pretty silly, considering that's a really quick thing you can do. I'm already not a fan of that. Finds Kate. She gets his pallet, which is fine. Not worth. Not worth, man. Not worth. Okay, so already, let me just start talking already, okay? So on other maps that aren't indoor and RPD, this might not be crazy, right? I mean, I like the idea of what you're doing. You're trying to, like, you know, make sure that you have them slipstreamed or whatever, right? But the thing about RPD is that you got to make sure that you're in a spot where there's not like a ton of corners you can turn, and this is not that spot. I mean, hypothetically, if you hit the first shot immediately, then maybe, even then, I don't know if you get this. Even if you hit that first shot right away, she could just run into this room, and then you don't get the vision of her. Like, this is not really a good spot to attempt to biopod. And maybe this just comes from, like, a lack of map knowledge or something. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if you don't know the map well enough, or maybe you just don't know the killer. Like, I don't know if it's, like, you misplaying the killer, or you just not knowing the map. Because I think this could be a good play if you were actually on a spot on the map where this made sense. It just doesn't really make sense here on this map. So even though you miss one, again, I think even if you didn't miss it, I don't think you get that. It's just not really worth it. And instead, you let her get a ton of distance. Like, she's in Narnia now, and you're going to get rid of that. So this first chase now sucks. Well, she's in Narnia. She ran to this area, which is weird. You're going to go upstairs. Man, I don't know how much I want to nitpick, because I'm not really sure how this game's going to go, but I might nitpick a little bit here, too. So, like, when you come around this corner, I think already, like, when you see that she went into this room, you should just automatically be going down here. Like the way that this works, especially because you're on East Wing and not West Wing, there's no way to get out here. Like, if you go into here, the only way out is right here and right here. That's it. There's no other way out of this, like, series of rooms. So again, this all might just be lack of knowledge of the map. I don't know. Maybe you just don't know these maps well enough. But like, on this wing in particular, if it's West Wing, like, if this side of the map was open and all those rooms were open, then this wouldn't count. because in that instance, the whole back of this place is open. And that means that there's like a whole nother area back here to worry about. But particularly if you get East Wing, the one where like that side of the map is all open and this side is more closed off, particularly this spawn of this map, these sets of rooms are kind of cut off and only have 2 ways in and out. And it's right here, and that's it. And that's kind of a big deal, right? Like only having 2 ways in and out is kind of a huge deal, especially considering you can literally run up here and cut her off, right? Like you can run up here and cut her off. As a matter of fact, I might see scratch marks up there. She might already be up there. I don't know. But you could have saved a ton of time. I mean, this is just like poor pathing, I would say. Like this would give you much better pathing and help her get less distance. So it's kind of nitpicky, but I would say it's kind of a big deal, right? Like, I mean, you don't want to get like, I think letting people get huge amounts of distance is just definitely a bad thing to do. That's definitely nitpicky though. I'm not sure the level of killer this even is yet. Like, I don't know how much experience they are. So maybe that's a little bit too like, I don't know if they even need to be worrying about that yet, depending on what else they need to work on. We'll see. All right, checking on all the gens, but you didn't check on the main gen, which is most likely the one that they're doing. Oh, no. Because you didn't set a biopod there because you forgot to set it. Go check on the main gen. You might as well. This guy's got so much distance. Yeah, I don't like the way this is being played right now at all. So this person that you're trying to chase right now has so much distance that it's literally not worth chasing. It's just not worth chasing at all. Like, it's just 100% not worth it. Like, it's going to take you so long to catch up to them, especially because you stopped to check turrets, right? The fact that you stopped to check turrets, especially, like, maybe if you didn't stop to check and you just stayed on them, like, if you really stayed on their ass, then maybe. But I think the fact that you stopped to check turrets here and you let them get even more distance, that chase is over. You have to just accept that chase is over. That's not a chase that you're in anymore. You are no longer in that chase. You got to let that person go. That is not a thing that you need to be concerned about anymore, right? So I honestly don't hate the idea to check turrets here, because I do think that she had a lot of distance and this is okay. But once you saw that they weren't on the 3 gens that you checked, which also, by the way, you don't need to hit spacebar and then control again. You can look at this turret and hit control. Like, you can just point your camera up here. But maybe this is how you prefer to play, so that you keep your turrets on the gens at all times. I don't know. Like, that's not a crazy thing to do. So maybe that's what you're doing. I don't know. But either way, once you realize that none of those gens are being worked on, absolutely you should be checking on this gen. Almost guaranteed there's at least 1 survivor, if not 2. If not all 3. Actually, I don't think that's a 3-man gen. But I guarantee you there's at least 1, if not 2 survivors on that gen right now. And it's gonna pop. It's gonna pop while all this shit's happening right here. I would be willing to bet. I guess I don't know like what MMR this is or whatever, but I would guess that that's gonna pop soon. That's already like the most common gen to be doing early, because it's just dead center of the map. It's really easy to see. You don't really have to go out of your way to find it. Okay, now you come here. There's a ton of progress on it. Now you set up the turret that you thought you set up earlier, and you're going to kick it. Which I guess I really don't hate. You know it's the only one that has progress. I don't hate that. This camera movement is hella sporadic. Okay. You bail from the scratch marks that you saw to chase her. She's going to run this way. You do have a biopod set up over here. You're going to set up another one. Okay. Okay, there's no better way for me to say this. Like, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. This was really, really bad. Like, this pallet as an isolated pallet is really weak, right? This is a really bad pallet. Like, more often than not, even if you just don't even use your power at all, if you just completely ignore your power and you just played this pallet like a normal killer with no power, you're probably going to get a hit here, right? This pallet's not strong. And to be honest, I don't hate what you're doing. I don't hate the idea of like slipstreaming her real quick, right? Like, I don't hate that as a thing, but there's no better way for me to word this than to say that you need to be faster and smoother. Like, you kind of do this in a really clunky way. Like, she runs over there, like, this is fine. Like, you need to like really quickly hit control, look at her, then really quickly hit spacebar so that she doesn't get a ton of distance, right? Because if you take a long time to do this, which is what you do, it just lets her get away from this really bad pallet. Again, she should be losing a health state. Like, her being in this pallet should mean that she has a very high chance of losing a health state, and she should not be able to just walk away from this really bad pallet scot-free, right? And that's kind of what you allow. Like, this is like, it's kind of slow, you take a little bit while to come out of it, and then she gets a good bit of distance. I mean, she does only make it to this weak pallet here, but still, like you could have got a hit on her there. Okay, she played that really badly, so never mind. It's kind of okay. She played that really badly. You get a hit on her there, so you know what? It's not the end of the world. It's fine. I still think that could have been smoother and better, but you're still doing fine. Gonna find Dwight and get a hit on him. Gonna kick the gen again real quick. Okay, so so like the chase with Kate is pretty much over. She got EMP'd. Ooh, good find on the Michaela. Gonna smack her. She's trying to camp his pallet. This should be death. She should 100% die here. Good baiting, good baiting, good baiting, good baiting. She's outplaying you. Uh-oh, she's patient. She's patient. No, you were... Oh, no, not like this. Okay, good stick on the Dwight. Gonna chase him outside. There's no pallet here, so he should die, right? He should die. And you might even get Jolt on that gen if you can kill him soon enough. This is good. I mean, I like this. This is a good decision to go after him. You do get the Jolt. Gonna try to hook him real quick. Nitpicking again, but facing this doorway when picking up. I mean, better hope no one has flashlights, because that's a little scary. You, like, face probably the worst direction you can probably face to pick up. Not a huge deal, because you didn't get flashlight saved or anything, but... Alright, so... Good job there. You get the pain res. You also delete that turret, which is actually good. That's a good, like, heads-up awareness to, like, delete that turret. That is no longer really necessary. You check on the gen that had progress. There's nobody there. Check on that one. No one there. So far, honestly, like, again, it's been, like, there's been a lot of mistakes, but it feels like this maybe, like, it feels like everyone in this game is making a ton of mistakes. So I would say, like, you're playing much better than the survivors so far. Like, I think you're definitely doing better than they are early game. Like, you're definitely doing, like getting the better of them. Okay, they did the gen out on the helipad, so rip. Actually, that wasn't on, no, yeah, that was out on the helipad. So helipad gen is gone. Like, this is a place where, yeah, I was gonna say, you could goop her real quick. There you go, you goop her up. Oh, you try to teleport, but you miss. We've all been there. Okay, gonna stay on her. That's an interesting time to teleport. This means that she'll probably pre-throw it. Oh my god, this Kate has no idea what she's doing. So, the thing that makes that, like, a somewhat questionable... Okay, I don't know if I want to call it questionable, but, like, the timing of when you teleported isn't bad, but it basically gives her the option to pre-throw it if she wants, right? Like, if she wants to, she can basically pre-throw this pallet, and then you have to just kind of force kick it yourself, and then she gets some distance, right? The way she played it was... I mean, how did she not learn it for the first time? I don't know. I just don't think she knows how the killer works. So this Kate is just free kills left and right, dude. You should be... Again, okay... We talked in the last gameplay review we did about this, about how you could, if you want, again, I don't necessarily condone this, but if you really care about winning, it's a pretty decent strategy if you want to abuse it. I'm just saying, if there's a survivor on the team that seems particularly bad, you can kind of focus them for free pressure. Like, I'm just saying, all right? I'm just saying. I'm not saying you guys should all go do this. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if you want to guarantee a win this match, this Kate is, she's free hooks, bro. She's free hooks. Like, again, okay, I'm just gonna say, Tay Ray might be an amazing human, and I don't mean to shit on them personally, okay? If Tay Ray is watching, look, you're probably a fantastic human, and I don't, there's nothing wrong with being, inexperienced at DBD. But I'm just saying, if you're a killer, you can tunnel the shit out of them, because that's free downs. That's free downs all day. They have no idea what they're doing against this killer. I don't think they know how this killer works. Because they just keep camping pallets and getting hit. So I don't know what you're doing right now. You're, like, wasting a lot of time doing nothing. And again, this is also something that I'm going to keep repeating. So when you have somebody hooked, it's like, I would argue this is the single most important time in the whole game as killer, is when you have somebody hooked. Because the faster you can get more stuff happening, the more you snowball. This is like your snowball opportunity, right? If you spend this time just doing nothing, like what you're doing right now, then your ability to snowball is just gone, and you can't really like pressure builds more pressure. If you can use your pressure to build even more pressure, you kind of get to the point where, like, the survivors just can't do anything and they get overwhelmed, and you just win. Like, that's generally how you win as killer, right? But, like, if you get a hook and then you just kind of, like, fuck around and don't really do much of anything and kind of just, like, let them have all day to do whatever they want, like, they're gonna be able to go get this unhook now, and it's not really that much of a concern. So Dwight comes back in, and then you goop him. You have that other biopod up there you can switch to as well, but okay, you get the teleport. So not bad. I still feel like you maybe could have been a little bit more proactive there. It worked out a little, I guess. I feel like it took a while to get going, but that wasn't terrible, I guess. So you're back on Dwight. Let's see where he goes. Okay, going to the right, Yep. Into this building, yep. He's probably going to go out the left and then upstairs, maybe? No, he didn't. Okay. I'm going to play this. Okay, well played. I actually don't even know why that happened. I feel like that pallet should have broken over your head, but that worked out pretty well. So good job. And then now you're gonna get another scourge hook, which is good. Or no, was this the guy you scourge hooked immediately? No, it was. That's actually not gonna be a scourge hook. That's okay. He's gonna be on death hook now. Yeah. Okay. So you saw some scratch marks here. Hold on. Let me rewind and see what the scratch marks look like. Sorry, I was too busy thinking about the scourge. Yeah, got the down, got the grab. Yeah. Was that just his scratch marks? No, this is someone else's scratch marks for sure. So yeah, somebody was here and you kind of look for him. Oh yeah, they also were in here a little bit too. They probably kept walking. They're probably right over by the stairs. They're probably like right over here somewhere. I think you probably could have found... Okay, well, there's somebody. I don't know if that's the same person. I think they probably were right there, though. Either way, you find Michaela. She runs away. You're going to be able to get a hit on her. You also set up a biopod on that gem, which I don't hate. Ankles! Ankles shattered! Oh, ankles shattered. Oh, again, a little bit sloppy. Again, this is something that, like, it's hard to give you shit for it because I feel like you're probably just still getting used to the killer, but like that was another situation where if you were just like a little bit more like smooth with your like movement in your turrets or whatever, you could have probably, I mean, not probably, you definitely wouldn't have got you definitely would have gotten that. Kayla dropped down the hole. You heard her go up. Wait, why did you not? Are you what? Why? But why? Huh? Huh. Okay, so this was a huge mistake here. Here's one thing that you never want to do as killer, okay? You almost never, ever want to basically just drop everything and let everybody just be full health and not being chased. Like, right now, none of the survivors are pressured. Everybody's kind of just free to do whatever they want. You have zero pressure right now. This is really bad. This is basically like the beginning of the game level pressure, right? You have nothing. And you were in a good spot. Like, you were about to get a hit on that Michaela. Like, she was 100% about to take damage. So, like, you chase her in here, and she runs straight to the hole. There's scratch marks all over the hole, and if you listen, here, listen. It's not even that loud. But the volume's not even that high, and it's so loud. She's like, ah. Like, she makes a loud-ass noise getting dropped down the hole. Yeah, like, maybe he's a little bit afraid of getting hold or something. I don't know. But even then, like, even if he just takes a quick look for, like, a second and drops down, even if he drops down right now, even if he hesitates and drops, fine. But, like, just staying up here in general, like, why? Why just abandon the chase altogether? It doesn't make any sense to abandon the chase altogether. So even if you're a little bit afraid of getting hold, like, I still feel like you just drop down no matter what. You don't just let her run away and be free. Because, yeah, now she's just fine. I mean, yeah, they have a boon here, but boons aren't really that big of a deal, man. Like, no, I don't think any boons are strong enough now that warrant, like, giving up a chase like this to go kick it. And, yeah, again, she dropped down there and got hit by a stun. That was a free hit. There was, like, really no pallet that close to her that she could have made to that would have made her not get hit. And now you're just kind of back at square one. They EMP'd this. There's somebody working on it. I guess you're going to go out there and defend that. Dude, that, like, here's another thing as well. So, like, I guess I don't hate that you're going to defend this gen, but just general game sense and general game knowledge, like, so you had this guy hooked over here, right? Like, he's hooked here. This is where Michaela drops. Michaela drops down into this room. If you guys don't know where that drop goes, it goes into this room right here, okay? So, while you're chasing this Michaela around, the Dwight gets unhooked right here, right? And then he also gets healed right about there, right? It's not too long after, right? And then you chase her upstairs. You're kind of watching this whole middle of the map. Basically, what I'm trying to say is 2 survivors are on this side of the map. Like, if you use the lobby to cut the map in half, and then this is one half and that's the other half, because the lobby is like a massive line of sight, right? Like, you can see all over it. So, like, if you pretend that this is like a divider of the map and this is one half and that's the other, even though I know that's not perfect halves, there is currently 3 people on this side of the map. There's 3 people here. There's the Michaela that you're chasing. There's the Dwight that got unhooked. And then there's whoever unhooked him and healed him. Like, they're all 3 here somewhere. So that's like another kind of a game sense thing to keep in mind. And again, I feel like maybe this killer in particular that I'm reviewing maybe shouldn't worry about that kind of stuff, because I think they maybe have other things that should be prioritized first. But just in general, like, for anybody watching that might need to hear that, that's a big deal. That's even more of a reason why I don't know how I feel about the way this gets played, right? Like you don't really prioritize anything. Like right now, there's 3 people below you. There's 3 people down below you that you can be chasing around and hitting. But instead, you like kick this boon, you come over here, you kick this pallet, you're just kind of slacking along, taking your time, deleting turrets, you know, setting up new ones. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. And even here, like you come out here and you don't even see any scratch marks or anything. Well, maybe is that some scratch marks? I don't know. Like it doesn't even look like they came out here. Then you're like, oh, okay, someone's on the outside, Jen, and then you just bail entirely to go there, right? Like I don't like with how long you took. I can't say for sure that there's still 3 people behind you, but there's decently likely that there's still 3 people behind you on the like bad side of the map where like there's almost nothing left, you know? So I don't know, just instead you like leave all 3 of them alone and then you come out here to chase Jane, which again is not terrible, I guess. And this is what I was talking about earlier about this pallet, you see? Like that's why I was like, this pallet is so weak that you should be getting hits here a lot of the time. You goop her up. Are you gonna teleport to her here with your gun? No. Looks like she's gonna run into main, maybe. Yep, and that see what I mean? There was 3 people on this side of the map, and that's what happens. 3 people over there just slamming gens completely yeah, I mean that's huge. Like that's so massive. Like even just chasing them around does so much in terms of stopping them from doing gens. I actually don't like that play either. Okay, so it's fine. I'll just let it play. I'll let it play. I'll wait till the chase is over, and then I'll come back to it. Okay, it's fine. If he does it here too, I'm gonna be really upset. Okay, he goes for a swing and doesn't get hit. Tries to teleport while blind, which I can respect. Whoa, that's a weird fucking biopod. Jesus. He had residual manifest, so you can't even see where your gens are anymore. That's pain. You find a Dwight. You're gonna hit him. He's gonna run up the helipad. You see an explosion. Oh hey, free kill on the Jane, I suppose. There you go. There you go. Gonna pick her up. Gonna get a skirt choke on her. Okay, let's go back and talk about the thing I want to talk about real quick since the chase ended. This pallet also sucks. So here's the thing: if you ever have a survivor, and this goes for any killer under any circumstance, okay? If you're playing any killer under any circumstance, if you have a survivor who's in a weak area of the map, especially when it's an isolated area, right? Like this pallet as well as that other pallet outside are isolated pallets, and what I mean is that there's really nothing super close for them to like chain, right? There's not like a window right here that they can use, or like another pallet, like, you know, like there's really nothing within close distance. Like this is basically all they have in like an island around them, you know? And if you ever have a survivor in a spot like this, you don't want to just let them escape without taking damage, basically. Like this is almost, I don't want to say guaranteed, but this is very, very high chance of getting damage. And damage is what you want. Like, damage trumps everything else in this game. Like, fuck breaking pallets quickly. Like, you can say, oh, but you're breaking all their pallets, so they won't have anything late game. There's not going to be a late game if you don't get enough hits, man. There's not going to be a motherfucking late game. Dude, they're going to get all the gens done. Like fucking no pallets in late game doesn't matter when all the gens are done and the exit gates are open. But anyway, point is that this is a perfect opportunity here for damage. This pallet is not good. This is a weak pallet. This pallet sucks. So, like, right here, you goop her up. And I don't like how you play this. I don't think you should even like charge this pallet. Like what you should be doing here is especially with her camping it like this. Like her camping it like this is basically just screaming to you that she's gonna throw it. Like she's basically like she like I think the only way that she can communicate this better is if she held up a fucking neon sign that was like, I'm going to throw this pallet the second you get near. Like that's 100% what she's doing here. And she does. And even here, I don't even think you get stunned. You like just teleport right away, and then you do like the thing where you break the pallet. But the thing about this is, yeah, you break the pallet, but then you slow down, and you have to go through like this weird cooldown phase, and then she gets a bunch of distance, and she runs away, and then she makes it somewhere, right? So like, you're basically just letting her escape that area. Like that was like a certain death area almost, right? Like this is a really weak area, and it should be almost certain death, and instead she just gets away totally fine. So instead, what you should do is you should get her to you should get her to drop the pallet. To be honest with you, I don't even think it's worth slipstreaming her here. Like when you down somebody, they lose their slipstream. So like if you're confident that you're about to down somebody, it's not even worth slipstreaming them. Like even here, I don't think this is even worth doing. Like you even taking the time to do this is a waste of time in my opinion. You should see this injured survivor at this pallet and be like, oh, she's dead. Oh, she's dead. Cool. You know? And so even this I think is a waste of time. And right here what you should be doing is you should be forcing this pallet, and then you should just be playing it back and forth and trying to bait the vault and then just getting the kill. Bam. That's a like that's a kill. And again, that can happen in like 10-15 seconds max probably. And instead it goes on for a long time. She runs the whole way across the map. She fucking stuns you, blinds you. You end up losing her. Actually, you don't even end up getting. Oh no, wait. Yeah, that's right. You end up downing her way out here because you're like running to her later. So yeah, like that down could have happened so much sooner. But instead, you like chase her to like the end of the earth. She like stuns you, blinds you. Like it ends up making the chase go so much longer. And yeah, you eventually get it down here. So okay, yeah. So we'll continue to where we were. But yeah, that's just an important thing. Again, any killer, it's really important to be able to identify what pallets are weak and what pallets are not weak. And if someone's at a weak pallet, especially an isolated weak pallet, you do not want to let them get away from that without taking damage. Like that is literally the spot that you're trying to get into as killer. Like your whole game is trying to get survivors to a spot where they can take damage. So if you get to that spot, you got to take advantage for sure. Okay, no one's on any of the gens. There is someone at the hook, so you're gonna come up and protect this. Oh, Jane jumps in front. Are you going to do the old, okay, you want to get tunneled, huh? I'll show you, bucko, which, you know, I can respect, you know? Like, okay, I was trying to chase the guy unhooking, but, you know, if you want to take the hit, that's fine. I'll do it, fine. Like, here's another, yeah, here. See? That's what you should have did to the other pallet. This is the exact same situation. This is the exact same situation. This is basically the same pallet, almost. Like, this is almost the same pallet in terms of how strong it is. It's almost the same exact situation. This was perfect. You didn't bother to biopod her. You just killed her. This was exactly what you should have did earlier. And I love this. I think this was great. So there you go. You get the down. I don't know if she has DS or not. I do like this. I like that you're going for the biopod even though there's nobody there. You did hear somebody scream, so I would check the other gens. Because I'm not sure that the scream came from there. Yep, they're down there. You can, yeah, I was gonna say you can hook her real quick, especially because there's a scourge hook right outside. Take her to the scourge. 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 No, take her to the scourge. No, no. 25% regression was right here. It was on the way to the generator too, man. That's on the way. It's right there. Oh, that's such a shame. Man, like you have pain res and you've only activated it one time. I mean, I know that you haven't had a lot of opportunities and like there's been a lot of situations where you couldn't, but this one was definitely, this is definitely a situation where you can get a pain res hit for sure, 100%. And also you know that they're doubled up on that gen, so you know that you're going to want the regression. Like you want that gen to regress. So yeah, I don't like that at all. Also, I wouldn't be wasting time doing this at all. Just get downstairs. Stop it. Stop it. Just get downstairs. Who cares? Just get downstairs. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Just get down there. Jesus, get down there fast. Fast, fast, fast. Vamonos. Okay. All right. Whoo. Woo. Okay. Chase him off. Okay. There's not as much progress as I thought there might be. I thought that gen might be at like 90%. Whoo. When you see two people doubled up on a gen like that, you don't know what they have, man. They might have proved thyself. They might have toolboxes. Like that gen could be getting some progress. So you hit the Kate off. This other person runs over here. They're going to be going for the unhook, I think. And they get the unhook. No one's biopod at the moment. You're going to interrupt this and hit the Michaela. Maybe, yes. Okay. Now what? This is like, again, one of those like really weak pallets where, okay. So I'm going to go on some more tangents about these pallets, okay? Because I feel like a lot of what's happening here is that you're misplaying unsafe pallets is what's happening. So the difference between a safe pallet and an unsafe pallet, okay? I was trying to think of my starting point here. I don't even know where I should start here. Let me start at the very beginning, okay? The difference between a safe pallet and an unsafe pallet is a safe pallet is a pallet where like you can just throw it, and then after it's thrown, you're like safe. You don't really have to worry about getting mind game. Like for instance, a lot of these pallets are unsafe. Like that pallet that the Jane used earlier was unsafe, and that's why you're able to like kind of just like bait a vault and hit her, right? Those are unsafe pallets. An example of a safe pallet would be the one that's out in the lobby where there's like no way for you to bait a vault, right? Like it's huge, it's massive. There's no way for you to like realistically bait them into vaulting into you because it's just so big. Like the areas around the side are so big, right? Usually, what makes a pallet safe and unsafe is how big the objects are around it, right? For instance, this pallet only has this really tiny bookshelf thing here, and that's it on this right side. So like you can get from this side of the pallet back over to this side of the pallet in like a second as killer, right? Which is why this is a really unsafe pallet. This pallet is really dangerous to use as survivors, and there's no way to like really play it after it's thrown, right? Like once this pallet's thrown, it's like a death trap. You basically want to stay the fuck away from it. Like really the only thing it's good for is like vaulting it and then running the fuck away for like a tiny amount of distance. You can't really stay at it, right? So if you have pallets like this, if you have unsafe pallets in general, whether it's this one or the other ones, basically the way that this works on the survivor side, we're gonna switch and we're gonna have a temporary survivor tutorial, okay? If you're playing survivor and you have an unsafe pallet, Now, if you're playing a safe pallet as survivor, you can do whatever you want. You can go for the stun, you can pre-throw it, and then force the killer to kick it. There's almost no way to play a safe pallet wrong, right? Because it's safe. Like, no matter what you do, you're probably going to be fine. You can loop it, you can try to go for stuns, you can just pre-throw it, force them to kick it, and then run away while they're kicking it. But an unsafe pallet, there is definitely right and wrong ways to play. You can't just, like run up and just throw it or, like, camp it or whatever, right? Like, basically the only way that you can get good value out of this pallet is by either pre-throwing it when you have a massive head start, and I mean a massive head start, or by getting a stun. Those are the only two ways to get any kind of value out of this pallet right here. And with how much distance you have on the survivor, like, the only way a pre-throw makes sense is if they have a ton of distance. And they don't have a ton of distance here, right? Like, you're right on them. Like, they're right here. So, like, you got to be careful of getting stunned here. Like, just charging into this unsafe pallet is, like, the worst thing you can do. Because there was also another survivor right to the side as well, right? Even if you thought that she, like, kept running, there's also another survivor right here too. As a matter of fact, wait, is that the person you were chasing? I can't even remember. I got too sidetracked myself now. But either way, like, the point is that the only way for the survivor to get value out of this is for them to stun you. So the fact that you just walk right into it and get stunned is, like, you're basically just giving them it for free, when in reality, this should be incredibly hard for the survivor to play. Like, this should be, like, this pallet is like 90-10 in the killer's favor. Like, you should be getting value out of this, and you should be getting damage here more often than not. And again, that's how, like, a lot of these pallets have been, and so far, you've only played one of them correctly that I've seen. Which is a big issue, because again, this is a golden opportunity to get it down here. I will admit that was a pretty good play from Michaela to, like, run past it and then come back and stun, but, like, I still feel like it could have been pretty easily avoided. The fucking Kate, dude. What was even the point of me saying all that when the Kate just literally stayed and didn't leave? This Kate player, dude. This fucking Kate player. That whole tangent I just went on didn't even matter because this Kate just didn't leave. She just stayed there. She just didn't move. Why did she not leave? She literally watches you get stunned and then she just stays right here? What? All right, what I said is still accurate. Hypothetically, if this Kate wasn't doing what she's doing, then you wouldn't have gotten it down here, and that Michaela would have ran away, this Kate would have ran away this way, and you would have been, like, not, you would have basically been fucked. You wouldn't have had it down at all. So I still think what I said is accurate, and you should still keep that in mind, okay? But this Kate, bro, my lord. I mean, very generous of her to give you a free down. I don't even think you should kick this. I don't even think you should take the time to kick this. This is, like, at this point, you're kind of in, like, the final area, and I think every second matters right now. And I know that sounds like I know it sounds silly to be like, every single second matters, but I'm literally not joking. Sometimes taking, like, 2 seconds to do something in really important times in DBD can be the difference between winning and losing. So I don't even think kicking this pallet's worth it. This pallet kind of sucks. It's not even that strong of a pallet. Taking the time to kick it's honestly just kind of a waste. I think you should just be biopodding this gen. You just heard people scream. Like, you just got it down, you heard people scream, biopod it, put pressure on it, do something with it. Maybe at least check on it and see how much progress it has, right? Like, something that makes Singularity strong is, like, even if hypothetically, even if that, like, biopod is EMP'd, right? Like, even if the biopod that's on that gen is EMP'd, you can still use the biopod to check the progress of the gen, right? Like, you can look and see how many people are on it, how many pistons are pumping, how close it is to being done. You can kind of see how much like, urgency you need, right? But instead, you don't do anything. You take the time to kick the really bad pallet, and then you pick her up. And I don't think you can get her to the Scourge, so you're just gonna hook her here, and yeah, they get it done. See? Like, I feel like had you used the biopod there, you probably could have seen the progress of the gen, maybe seen how many people were on it, and maybe realized that, like, oh, I need to prioritize protecting this now, you know? Okay, and I just want to say something else. I know that there's this thing where everyone's like, hey guys, I mean, when you get to the end game, there's nothing else to do but face camp. Which, like, don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily disagree, but, like, not this early, dude. Like, they haven't even opened the gates yet. I feel like people forget that the exit gates are a part of the game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about face camping this early. You can go do stuff right now. Like, you still have time. Like, they still have to open the exit gates. You can still go apply pressure. You can go get hits. Like, all this is doing is almost guaranteeing that they will be able to save the survivor. Like, if this team knows what they're doing, you're literally just fucking yourself over right now. Because you're allowing them to just not take any damage. Okay, well, it doesn't look like they're going to do the right thing. Never mind. Never mind. Looks like they're going to do the wrong thing. Jane just rushes it, so now you're going to hook her and probably face camp her, right? But does she still have hook stages left? I think she does, right? I can't remember. I think she does. No, she's death hook. I don't know what these survivors are doing, bro. So to be fair, I don't know what the fuck they're doing either. Because, like, why would she do that? Like, what was that? She was like, no, Kate, I'll die. You know? I don't know. Maybe they're like, you know, maybe they're on an Uwu DVD date or something, and he was like, "Don't worry, babe. Don't worry, babe. I'll save you. Don't worry. I'm gonna come in with my strong arms and unhook you, babe." And she's like, "Oh, thank you, Juggalo brothers. My hero." I don't know, because that was weird. I don't know why the fuck she did that. They could have very easily saved her. Like, realistically, like, you're kind of setting yourself up there to get a 0K. Because by face camping this early, you're not applying any pressure to them in any way. You're not injuring them or anything. Like, basically what they could do right now, they have a full 60 seconds, right? They can literally heal up Michaela. They can open the exit gate, and then they can send 2, if not 3 survivors with this hook, and basically unhook her while taking body block hits, and then get to the exit gate. Like, if these survivors knew what they were doing, I mean, again, they seem to not really know what they're doing. But if they knew what they were doing more, this could have been a 0K based on how you play this endgame. So I don't even like this either. I don't like the whole, like, I don't like the like face camping immediately the second the final gen gets done. Like, exit gates are an objective too, you know? If you know that the gates are both powered and stuff or whatever, then, you know, sure, by all means, at that point, feel free to face camp or whatever, or at least proxy or whatever. But gates are a part of, like, gates are an objective. Like, they are an objective. The game is not just immediately over the second the final gen pops, you know? So, yeah, don't really like the way that endgame played, but you still did get a, you still did get a kill, and that's it, right? And then they get out. Do we see their builds? We do, although it seems a little bit not great. But yeah, nothing even that crazy in terms of builds, to be honest with you. Just kind of what you'd expect. There's really not like a ton of like made for this hope or like even like prove thyself. There's kind of just a bunch of goofy stuff, man. Like empathy, self-care, like okay, well, yeah, actually he's got self-care, botany. This guy's got plunders. Like, they're not really running anything that crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's hard to pinpoint like 1 or 2 things here to point out, because I think there was just like, this was tough because there were so many mistakes made on both sides. Like, I feel like the like smoothness of you using turrets is something that I pointed out a lot, but I think that's something that just kind of comes with time. I think a big thing that you need to work on is just prioritizing like keeping up the pressure, right? Like, I think the biggest throw of the whole match was the Michaela going down the hole. I think that was the biggest throw of the whole match. Like, this part right here, I think is where it was, right? This was the biggest throw of the whole match right here, 100%. Like, they just unhooked over here. You knew where 2 people were, and you also were engaging in a chase, and you were about to get a hit. She just dropped down a hole, and you were about to get a hit, and then you just stopped. You just stopped. That was 100% game ending. This gave them so much. Because if you realize you're at 3 gens right here, right? Look at what happens after this, right? Like, you're currently at 3 gens. You know that 3 people are right underneath you, right? We've already talked about this, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. And then you leave, and you go the whole way across the map to chase a Dwight that's on a Jane that's on this gen. And then look what happens, dude. Gen pop. You know? Like you see how fast that is? I mean, you fucking left 3 survivors there to just do gens for free. So yeah, I mean, you're going to lose gens. Like, you're going to lose all your objectives that are there, especially because your objectives are there, right? That makes it even worse. The fact that you have objectives there too, and you know that they're sitting right on top of objectives and you just leave is like, yeah, like that's 100% the biggest throw of the game. Like, those 2 gens should not have gotten done as easy as they did, and it should have been more of a chore for them to get those done. And instead, you kind of just gave it to them for free. And yeah, I don't know. That's really it. Aside from that, I feel like the main things to work on are like how you play, like basically how you identify pallets. And I know I saw some people in chat were talking about this earlier. I know that this pallet isn't as unsafe as some of these other pallets. This pallet is like only somewhat unsafe. Like, this pallet is not super easy to get a hit on the survivor, but you still have the advantage. Like, as a killer, assuming you're not bad at killer, and assuming you just are decent at, like, you know, doing this kind of a mind game, you should be getting a hit here against the survivor, right? Like, this isn't as easy as a hit as some of those other pallets, but it still should be an easy hit. So again, I think all these pallets that are unsafe, where you can just get a hit for free, but instead you like kind of walk up and let yourself get stunned and like kind of let them like get away or whatever, I feel like that was all kind of a mistake too. That kind of matters a lot. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's really nothing else for me to say without like just repeating myself over and over. I think getting that scourge when you down the dude in the room would have been a big deal. I think checking the progress on the gen or down on this Kate would have been a big deal, especially because you heard people scream. Like, when you hear people scream, that's how you know that they're on a gen, right? Like, that's Jolt making them scream. So you know that at least the Dwight was on that gen, if not more, right? There might be more people showing up. So again, I just feel like there was so many throws here. Like, again, this, like, taking the time to kick this pallet, not really prioritizing the gen in any way, just kind of like playing it lazily. It's just, you're not really keeping up pressure. You're kind of just being lax and giving them a lot of time. Like, as killer, you want to just be on their shit all the time. Like, that's what you want to do. You want to be always on their shit. You want to always be pressuring them and applying pressure and making them do stuff. Like, it seems like I'm being stupid, and it seems like I'm, like, being nitpicky and I'm being, like, overly, like, harsh for no reason. But literally, like, and it might sound dumb, but, like, literally just taking the time to, like, kick a pallet like this is so unnecessary. Like, after you get this down, you know from earlier that this gen had a bunch of progress and that they were trying to get it done. You heard someone scream. Like, there's really no reason to stop and kick this pallet, right? Like, it takes what, like maybe 3 seconds to do, but still, that's 3 seconds you can spend. Like, if you would have spent that 3 seconds going down to the gen, you could have already been like 80% of the way there and chasing them off the gen, right? You could have been you could have been getting in your biopod and hitting them with the goop, and then also checking on the gen at the same time. Hell, you could have even been carrying this Cade to a hook. That way you could hook her and then get down there faster, which is probably the worst of the 3 choices. But you could have even been doing that, which might have helped too, right? Like, there's so many things that you could have been doing. And instead, it's like you like take the time to just do these like little things that don't matter. Like, your time as killer is so important, and you absolutely like must take good advantage and use your time well. Like, if you're not using your time well, that's just how, like, that's all this game is. That's all this game is like time management. The game, like, survivors are trying to get their gens done. You're trying to kill them before they do, and it's just how well each side manages their time. And again, that's bad time management. So, what have you slugged and pressured the gen? Well, specifically with this killer, I would have used the biopod. Because again, this killer is a special circumstance because you literally have a camera on the generator. Like, this killer is literally perfect for the situation because you could literally just go to your camera and see the exact progress of the gen and how many people are on it and so on and so forth, right? But I think if I was not Singularity, if I was just some random killer here, yeah, I would go to the gen. I would definitely go to the gen immediately because, again, we saw earlier, like, it's kind of hard without context, but we saw earlier that this gen had a bunch of progress, right? When was it? It was like right here. Yeah, like he downs, like, even this frightened me, dude. I was frightened here because I think he didn't scourge her. Yeah. So he downs the Jane here, right? This is right before what we just watched, right? He downs the Jane. He sees 2 survivors on this gen, right? Who, again, they could have Prove Thyself, they could have toolboxes. Like, it's hard to know what they're running, right? 2 survivors on this gen. He goops them, and then he first off, like, you don't scourge this Jane, which again is a mistake because you have a scourge hook right there. Like, that's a reachable hook, and the only person that's been scourge hooked this whole game is Dwight. So that's a reachable scourge hook, which also is a mistake. But even here, this terrifies me, dude, because you saw that there's 2 people in the gen, and you hook her here, which is whatever, and then you like take forever to get down there, which is also alarming. You're like, hold on, let me like reset this real quick. Like, it doesn't really matter, man. Just get down there. Like, that's your last objective, dude. If you let that get done, that's bad. Like, again, that only took what, like 3 or 4 seconds? But again, 3 or 4 seconds might be the difference between them finishing the gen and them not finishing the gen. You know what I mean? In this instance, it wasn't the difference, but it could be, right? It could be. And you get down here, and it's hard to see because the quality isn't great, but it looks like it seems like there's like somewhere between like 50, 60, maybe a little bit more progress on the gen. Oh god, it's so hard to tell because it's so dark. There's definitely a good bit of progress on that gen, right? I would say somewhere between like 50 and 70% or something. It's hard to, I'm just trying to go off sound because I can't really see it too well. It seems like the pistons were definitely pumping though. Like you know that there's progress in this gen, and you know that this is the one that they're like heavily working on, right? And like a whole other thing to add as well is that like it's very common for survivors to get like overly invested in a gen. As a matter of fact, you can win games sometimes just from survivors doing this. I mean, not all the time. I wouldn't rely on it, but when survivors get a bunch of progress on a gen, they very often want to finish that gen. Like there's a way higher chance that they're going to go to that gen again rather than going to a different one. You know what I mean? So like that's another reason, right? Like you saw that gen was at like 50, 60, 70%. I don't know how much it was because like the quality is not great, but you saw that there was a bunch of progress on it. You saw that they were getting it done. And then like kind of shortly after is when this happens, right? And you also know that there was people down there. Like there was multiple survivors downstairs. That's when all this happens. You hit her. You hear Dwight yell, which means he's on the gen. And again, you have a biopod there. Like you have a biopod on that gen. You can at least check it. Like again, there's just really no reason not to go down to that gen right now. Like you have to go down there. Like if you don't go down there, you're just giving up your last objective for free for no reason. Like you absolutely should be going down. So, yeah. Again, especially considering like almost everybody's injured except for Dwight, right? Like if anyone else is down there, it'll be a free down, right? Like if you go down there and find like Jane or Michaela, free down and another Joel. Even if you find Dwight, you can hit him, kick the gen, and then play around that. But either way, just the way you spent your time here was very, very bad. And yeah, I think that's it. I don't really think there's anything else to say. I think that's it. Overall, though, like it's hard to say because I don't really think there's much to say about actually Singularity the killer. Like, I do think there's like some things that you could do better, which I already pointed out. Like, I think just being smoother with your cameras is okay. I don't think your like camera placement on gens was bad. Like, I think you did fine there. Like, I mean, obviously there was like the sloppy point in the beginning where you thought you placed one and you didn't. But overall, like your biopod placements on gens were fine. I think the way that you biopoded people in chase was mostly fine, with the exception of a few mess ups that you did. But like, I don't know. Like, I think you were mostly doing okay as far as playing the killer itself. I mean, I think you missed a couple opportunities here and there, but I think you were doing okay. It feels like you might just need more overall killer experience, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like your overall killer macro and understanding and gameplay is probably what needs help more than your individual Singularity gameplay. Because, yeah, there was definitely a lot of mistakes there, macro-wise and decision-making-wise. But, yeah, overall, I mean, still a solid game. I mean, you ended up getting a 1K, then the other 3 got out. But I think, again, you make one less mistake. Literally, you chase this Michaela down the hook here. Like, that's literally, not down the hook. Literally, you chase this Michaela down this hole here, and you start interrupting all the people that are here. If this one decision right here is different, this game becomes probably like a 2K, 3K. Who knows? Who fucking knows, honestly? With how much this Kate seems to just run into you and die, it could have been a 4K. I have no idea. It's really hard to say. But honestly, like, it might have seemed like a really bad game and a really bad result, but you were honestly one big decision change away from this being a solid match. So, yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for this killer in particular should be not to do this. Don't just give up all your chases. Like, at no point in the match should you just be giving up everything and letting all the survivors run around free. Like, you should always be pressuring at least one person no matter what. You never want to have all 4 people not being pressured. That's just kind of like unacceptable at any time other than the very beginning of the match. So, yeah, that's it. That's all there is to say. Fun review, though. Fun review. That was cool. That was the first time watching a Singularity. It's kind of interesting because Singularity is still so new. So, like, I wasn't really sure how I was going to be reviewing it. But yeah, it was solid. I don't know.